this election that you won't hear or see or read anywhere else. No, I'm not going to talk about meatballs or the last time I went to my local shoe store. I'm going to talk about things that affect you directly. Directly. I hear it's on TV, radio. People, I'm tired of this election. I'm tired of this election, too. And that's why the left always wins. They're not tired of anything. They plow ahead. They wear you down. And not just at election time, in life generally. Health care, immigration issues, the workplace, they just keep beating you down, beating you down. And how is this? How do they get away with this? Isn't that important to understand? No. 2 weeks before a presidential election, where a third of the Senate's also up and all the House of Representatives, it's up too. Is this the time to turn a blind eye? Is this the time to be bored? Well, I hope not. Because trust me when I tell you the left is not bored, they are psyched. And they're on the move. And I can't come behind this microphone and talk to you about the Constitution and tyranny and liberty and how bad Obama is and all the rest, and then 2 weeks before the election say, you know what? Let's pick lint out of our belly buttons. It's too big. We can do that on Saturday and Sunday. Let's step back a second. Forget that Donald Trump is the Republican nominee. What is Hillary Clinton campaigning on? What is Hillary Clinton campaigning on? Hillary Clinton is campaigning on, once and for all, unmooring our government from the Constitution. Even more. Expanding that part of government which makes your vote increasingly irrelevant, which increasingly disenfranchises you, which increasingly ruins your liberty, your employment, your job, your business. What is that? What is it that she wants to empower? What is this monster? It's the administrative state. It's the massive bureaucracy. This is the great coup, the great counter-revolution that I've been talking about all these years and writing about against the American Revolution and your heritage of liberty. It's the great war on the individual. It's the great war on faith and family. It's the great war on capitalism. It's the great war on private property rights. It's the great war on citizenship. This massive administrative state, department after department, agency after agency, bureaucrat after bureaucrat, the statist progressives have all but obliterated the notion of separation of powers, and the courts have gone along. When the nation was originally founded, we had these three different branches of government, something that has been urged by great philosopher after great philosopher. And by the way, these idiots that talk and go on about, what do I care about philosophy? Certain philosophies has real impact in your lives. Practical, political impact on your lives. We can't just look at the superficial, the surface. We've got to dig under and understand what's going on with us. What's going on in this country. What motivates our enemies. They reject the notion of the individual. They reject our founding. They consider us and it backwards. This is the so-called new thinking, the progressive thinking, the late 1800s and beyond now, where we are to be ruled by experts, by professionals, by people who are said to know more than we know. And they're going to make decisions, claim that they're on our behalf, when they could care less what you actually think, which is why they enshrine their views and their positions with tenure, with union protection. And so they exist and they function outside the election process, regardless who's elected. And so we have this massive, as Hobbes called it, Leviathan. Massive. Tentacles everywhere. So the notion that the government exists for you is turned on its head. You exist for the government. You will sign up for Obamacare to make Obamacare work, quote unquote. You will follow the rules when it comes to bathrooms, whether you like it or not. Your kids will follow the rules on the school lunch program, whether you like it or not. You now exist for the government. That's the great change, and there's nothing you can do about it, so goes the argument, because this massive Leviathan, this administrative state, meaning the bureaucracy, all the bureaucrats, faceless, who are supposed to be the experts and the professionals when in fact they're not, they are the ones who are going to decide policy, energy policy, education policy, farming policy, energy policy. Oh, I already said that. You know what I mean. Now, this notion of separation of powers. When the nation was first founded, and beyond, when the framers adopted the Constitution and they were ratified in the state legislatures, or ratified in convention by the states, there really was no such thing as two permanent political parties. There were two parties, but it wasn't the party system that was the end-all and be-all. And when the framers did meet in Philadelphia, there wasn't this idea of a two-party system, really. So like it or not, I'm just giving you a little bit of history. What has happened, particularly on the Democrat side, but also on the Republican side, but particularly on the Democrat side, you have a Congress, you have a president. Rather than balancing each other and checking each other, what happens when the Democrats control the Senate and the House, and they control the presidency, they don't care about separation of powers. They confer as much power on their Democrat president as they possibly can, because he, quote unquote, has the power to act. He's one man or one woman who can effectuate a great deal of their agenda without going through the legislative process, but instead go through these administrative departments and agencies. So what happens when the Democrats control the whole thing? Separation of powers goes out the window. The Democrats give as much power as they can to an Obama or a Hillary Clinton or whomever it is to advance their ideology. They are not committed to the constitutional scheme. They are not faithful to the constitutional scheme. The Constitution itself gets in the way of their agenda, which I explained at great length in Ameritopia. So if Hillary Clinton is president, and the Senate goes Democrat, and the House goes Democrat, they are going to build on this administrative state. And in the end, this administrative state is led by one man or one woman, the president. And so this is sort of backdoor fascism, backdoor totalitarianism. Well, what else do you call it? When more and more power is seized by a president and more power is conferred to a president, despite the fact that such conference is unconstitutional, what do you call it? Now, Hillary Clinton's well aware of this. Well aware of this. She's surrounded by people who are well aware of this. Barack Obama's well aware of this. He's surrounded by people who are well aware of this. Donald Trump has no idea what I'm talking about. And most of the people surrounding Donald Trump has no idea what I'm talking about. The Republican leadership, for the most part, they have no idea what I'm talking about. And they're surrounded by people who have no idea what I'm talking about. And they go along. But Hillary Clinton is a player. Hillary Clinton is an Alinsky ideologue. Hillary Clinton understands everything that I'm saying. The administrative state bypasses separation of powers. And the reason we fight in these national elections, those of us who believe that only Article 5 can ultimately save the Republic, but the reason we do this is to try and stop the aggressive ideological expansion of the administrative state, which has as its purpose to devour the civil society and what liberties we have left. That's why this election, and quite frankly, every election is important. The administrative state is self-serving. It's self-aggrandizing. It empowers itself. When it issues regulations, it not only legislates, it not only executes, it adjudicates. They have administrative law judges. All three powers of our government are in the bureaucracy now under the President of the United States. When she talks about, Hillary, free college, that means the administrative state will control college and curriculum and essentially students. Of course they give out freebies because they get votes, and in turn they get these votes and they massively increase the administrative state. Power begets power. Centralized power becomes increasingly centralized. Damn the people. Damn the individual. They never talk about individual liberty. Ever. They never talk about unalienable rights unless it's a throwaway line. They never talk about property rights. They never do. And so this system is self-perpetuating. And it's getting more aggressive, more insatiable, more bloated. What of the judiciary, you ask? Well, about 100 years ago, give or take, the Supreme Court said no to this. The Supreme Court said no. Politicians and bureaucrats don't have the power to do this under our Constitution. And to put it simply, I don't have time for the entire story, Franklin Roosevelt threatened to pack the Supreme Court. As vice president at the time, a former Speaker of the House, a very left-wing Democrat, but still a man of tradition in some ways, John Nance Garner, lobbied against Roosevelt's attempt to expand the court from 9 to 14 members so he could appoint 5 of the members. It was defeated in the Congress, even though the Congress was Democrat, led behind the scenes by John Nance Garner. But the court got the message. And there were a lot of old people on the court. Some of them died, some of them retired, and in the end, Roosevelt replaced all of them. And virtually every single effort that Roosevelt put in place as a matter of policy that massively increased the size of the administrative state, that had come to life really during the Civil War, but was really pushed as an ideological matter by Theodore Roosevelt, by Howard Taft, and most certainly by Woodrow Wilson, became this massive government leviathan that you see today, and that just keeps expanding. And the courts defer to it. The courts give it deference. Now, there are a multitude of cases in which this was made the situation with the courts, but particularly one case, if you want to Google it, it's called the Chevron case. And it was a case, the decision was written by John Paul Stevens, who was a very, very liberal member of the court. appointed by Gerald Ford as only appointee. And so now all three branches of the federal government are in collusion to expand the federal government's power, to confer power on the presidency, to massively increase the administrative state, which is an attack on you, our history, our heritage, our liberty. You're one candidate in Hillary Clinton who's an ideologue who is committed to doing it even more and putting the final nail in the coffin. And you have another candidate, unwittingly, who is not. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Once established, no department, no agency, no entitlement, no program is ever eliminated. Because that would be a step backwards for the statist. They will never surrender. So why are we surrendering to them? I don't care what your view of Donald Trump is from my perspective. It's not even relevant, really, in this election. The person who is likely to get elected president at this point is going to take aim at your liberty, at your property, and try and expand further that entity which isn't even constitutionally founded. I'll be back. Against the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, against you, and for this unconstitutional governing system, if you will. When you have Congress, particularly under the Democrats, that intentionally weakens its constitutional powers in order to empower a single person, the President of the United States. When you have a President of the United States that has an army of bureaucrats, millions, and scores of departments and agencies from which he can rule, well, that ought to get your damn attention. And why people are arguing about secondary and third and tertiary issues, when this is the bottom line, I don't know. Ted Cruz understands this. I haven't talked to him, but I know he understands this, which is why he made the same decision that I did. He understands it. And he, more than anybody, has a reason to be so repulsed by Donald Trump as to not even say he would vote for him. But he's going to vote for him. And I think much of the reason he's going to vote for him is what I'm explaining to you right now. Because we care about our country and we know what's next. You see, tyranny is contagious. This battle between tyranny and liberty is a permanent battle. Tyranny usually wins. Our American system is unique. In all of humankind, it is unique. And it has been, is continuing to be eviscerated. I don't see any savior in Donald Trump, not even close. I don't even see a savior in any politician. Ted Cruz, Mike Lee, Rand Paul, so forth and so on. But there is a difference between somebody who is aggressively and affirmatively advancing a systemic ideological case for tyranny. That's what I'm trying to underscore. I don't know that I've done it well. I don't know that I've done my best, but I'm trying to explain it. I am trying to explain it. The media want us to talk about everything other than what I'm talking about. There are talk show hosts that want to talk about everything other than what I'm talking about. There are talk show hosts that are so impressed with themselves that they think they're the only ones who stand on principle. They're all wrong. They're just wrong. Harry Reid has announced that if the Republicans attempt to block a Supreme Court justice nominated by Hillary Clinton, and by the way, she thinks the guy that Obama nominated isn't radical enough. If she nominates a Supreme Court justice and the Republicans don't go along with it, and the Democrats control the Senate, he said he's going to blow out the filibuster rule again, this time as it applies to the Supreme Court, so a simple majority can now put justices on the court for Hillary Clinton. Now, I am telling you, ladies and gentlemen, that's the end of it. Not of America, but Americanism. That's the end of it. There's nowhere to go. The government is everywhere, and you won't be able to get relief from it. You're going to get relief by going to one of the branches that's controlled by the left? No, you're not. Well, that's what we're facing. That is what we're facing in 14 days. As Obama desperately wants to hand over the reins of power to Hillary Clinton, one Alinskyite to the next. I am speaking to you as somebody who opposed Donald Trump in the Republican primaries. I am speaking to you as somebody who voted for Ted Cruz. I am speaking to you as somebody who finds Donald Trump's positions on a number of issues absolutely objectionable. And I find his position on other issues sound. But this election isn't about Donald Trump. Donald Trump couldn't do the damage that Hillary Clinton will do on his best day because he doesn't think that way, because he's not an Alinsky ideologue. He may have liberal leanings on issues. He may have been a liberal, but he's not her, a radical, dug-in ideologue since college and law school and ever since. And that's the truth. And if she's elected president, we are all going to regret it. We have one candidate who's proposing killing off Obamacare and replacing it with something else. Just kill the damn thing. Replace it with anything. Just kill it. And we have another candidate who wants to expand it. We have one candidate who wants to secure the border. We have another candidate who doesn't. We have one candidate who wants to bring competition to education, school choice. We have another candidate who doesn't. We have one candidate who wants to raise $1.4 trillion in taxes, and we have another candidate who doesn't. We have one candidate who wants to slash regulations. We have another candidate who wants to double and triple them. We have one candidate who's put out a list of 20 potential Supreme Court nominees and said he'll stick to the list. We have another candidate who's told us what she wants to do to the Supreme Court. She wants to turn it into a left-wing radical Politburo. And by God, she will. Now, that at least is how I see it. And I've been saying that I'm going to vote for Trump, and I've been extremely clear in why. It's called damage control. And it's based on principle. And people of principle and morality can have different positions. I'm not putting anybody down. I'm just making the point. For me, my principles and my reality tell me she is a grave threat to my family, to this country, and to the future. She is a grave threat. I know all about Trump. We all know all about Trump. How can you not watch the media and read it and not know about Trump? I got it. I know all about it. She is a crook. She's an unindicted felon. But worse than all that, even worse than her pathological lying, she's one of them. She's America types. And I don't know how we come out from under with 4 more years of this. And I don't know how we win elections with open borders for 4 more years. It's hard enough right now.